With just 2 months remaining to the U.S. presidential elections, the top two contenders, Democratic candidate Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump, took part in their maiden presidential debate on Tuesday night. The debate, hosted by ABC News, covered exchanges on major issues such as abortion, economy, foreign policy, and immigration, to name a few. In the opening minutes, both rivals sought to claim the mantle of changing the country, which is something that the American people desire most. A group of registered voters who watched a highly anticipated debate agreed that Kamala Harris outperformed Donald Trump. This is according to a CNN poll of debate watchers conducted by SSRS. According to 63% of debate viewers, Harris did a better job on stage in Philadelphia, more than the 37% of those who said that Trump did a better job, while few changed their thought of Trump over all. Those who watched the debate were also left with a better impression of Kamala Harris than they had before the debate. Their assessments of each candidate's advantages on the issue persisted in mirroring the trends observed in national surveys, with Trump superior on the economy, immigration, and the role of commander-in-chief, and Harris more credible on abortion and democracy preservation. On the issue of the economy, Harris claimed that she had a plan to help people. However, she did not outline the details of the plan. Trump accused the Biden-Harris administration of leading the country to the highest figure of inflation. Trump said that the people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. Their most intense exchange was on abortion, with Trump making clear that while having pushed for the end of federal rights to abortion, he wanted individual states to make their own policies. Harris, however, was not convinced, constantly saying that Trump was telling, quote, a bunch of lies, and called his policies insulting to women of America. Take a listen. At the conclusion of the night, debate viewers' perceptions of Harris were divided, with 44% expressing a negative opinion of her and 45% a positive one, an improvement from before the debate, when 39% of voters said that they viewed her favorably. Meanwhile, debate spectators' opinions of Trump did not really change. 39% of them thought well of him, 51% thought poorly of him, which is about the same as his ratings among those same voters before he went on stage with Harris. After the debate, the voters who watched the debate were divided over which candidate had a better understanding of the problems faced by the people of this country, among which 44% supported Harris and 40% picked Trump. This marks a shift in Harris's favor from before the debate, when 43% were of the opinion that Trump had a better understanding of the problems, as compared to 39% who said that it was Harris. But voters who tuned in gave Trump a 20-point advantage over Harris after the debate of handling the economy, 55 to 35%, a margin that's slightly wider than his pre-debate edge. Trump also received a 23-point advantage over Harris when it came to immigration, and a 6-point edge on handling the role of commander-in-chief. Meanwhile, Harris got a 9-point advantage on protecting democracy and a 21-point advantage on handling abortion issues. With the debate playing a crucial role for voters in deciding their president, 82% said that the debate did not affect their choice. Another 14% said it made them reconsider their choice, but didn't change their mind. And only 4% said the debate changed their minds about who to vote for. All right, for more on this, we are being joined by Dan McMillan, who is a founder of Save Democracy in America and a political analyst as well. Welcome to WION, and thank you so much for joining us. The question everyone is asking, who won the debate?
Well, I think that most sort of agree that Harris performed better than Trump. On the other hand, from where I sat, I don't see that Harris performed well. And as that poll that you just cited indicates, it doesn't seem to have really changed hardly anyone's mind. And this is a huge problem, because Harris really needed to hit a home run in this debate. She needed to win convincingly, because at this point, it seems if the polls are an indication, she's on track to lose. Now, the reason I say this is the latest polls show Trump and Harris in pretty much a dead heat in the national popular vote, and more or less neck and neck. In the swing states, maybe a slight advantage for Harris. The problem with that is that because of the Republicans' built-in sort of structural advantage in the Electoral College, where the president is actually chosen, Democrats need to win the popular vote by at least 2.5%, maybe 3%, to win in the Electoral College. So if they are tied in the popular vote polls, then that means that the Democrats are losing, and in fact losing by a margin, a significant margin. The other problem also for the Democrats is that consistently in polls, the polls consistently underestimate Trump's support, because there's a fraction of the electorate, of his supporters, who don't like admitting to poll takers that they're voting for Trump for whatever reason, because Trump, says so many horrible things and is not a terribly attractive person in a lot of people's eyes. The long and the short of it being that, you see some commentary in my country these days to say that the race is tied. But the fact is, if the current polls say the race is tied, that means that if the election were held tomorrow, Trump would win, and probably convincingly. Harris may have, you could say she performed better, but she didn't land any really terrible blows. She responded evasively to a lot of the questions. Both of them, neither candidate actually really directly answered the questions that were put to them. Most of them found ways to talk about something else that they preferred to discuss.
Yeah, that's very true. And, the issue of the economy and immigration continue to be on top of voters' minds across the United States. And Trump had a very strong support regarding these two issues going into this debate. For Harris, it would be abortion and the issue of transfer of power and the restoration of democracy and whatnot, the slogans that the Biden administration, for the most part, has been following for the last 3.5 years or so. Do you think that both sides were able to bank on these advantages and bring their message home?
Well, I mean, they repeated the messages that they've had so far all along. But on the other hand, Trump, with regard to the economy, Trump has an advantage, a very large advantage, that's stated really in the first question that the moderators put to Vice President Harris. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Because of the harm, the dislocation of the pandemic, and the loss of purchasing power through a couple of years of very high inflation, the answer is clearly no. Americans are hurting, and that the problem was that Harris then just evaded this question. She didn't squarely answer. She could have said, well, actually, I would say that a lot of Americans are not better off now, but this was caused by this pandemic, which is an uncontrollable, unpredictable event. And here's our plan going forward. She did state some economic plans going forward, a $3,600 a year per child tax credit for families with children, which is, a lot of economists say, is a good idea, although Trump and J.D. Vance also support such a tax credit. So how powerful an argument is that? She didn't offer any transformational policies on the economy that would give Americans some real hope that their economic situation, which right now is quite precarious for many Americans, is going to improve. So that was a situation where Harris had to come back with a very strong response, and did not do so. With regard to abortion, that is, I think, Democrats' strongest issue. With regard to, it's interesting that she kept coming back to the peaceful transfer of power in January 6th. Want to talk about that. I'm not suggesting that it isn't an important question, but on the other hand, that was the leading theme of Biden's campaign. Only we Democrats can save American democracy from Donald Trump. And that theme was not working. It was not persuading voters. Voters, I think, want to see they want to see some positive ideas for how their lives are going to get better. Just talking about what they should be afraid of about Donald Trump doesn't really seem to be doing the job. So, all in all, it's not that. I mean, Harris did, as I say, I think people are right to say that she performed better, but she had to perform an awful lot better, and she really had to. Um, she also had to squarely address, and she didn't. She avoided it again, was evasive. The claim that she has flip flopped on her positions, because 5 years ago, when she was running in the Democratic primary, she talked about we should decriminalize border crossings, that it should no longer be against the law to come into our country without permission, that we would ban fracking to prospect for oil and gas. There was one other, oh, yes, that we should eliminate private health insurance and just have a government funded plan. And she's changed her position on all of those. And, she could have just said, she was asked directly about that later in the debate. And again, then she quickly changed the subject and didn't really answer the question. She could have just said, I'm not flip flopping. I was vice president for 3.5 years. I learned all kinds of new information, gained new experience. And for the following reasons, because of the things I've learned, I have changed my position. And that would have been fine and would have made her look strong and look like a leader. It would have made her look like someone who was confident. And she failed to do that. And I think it's something that she absolutely had to do because, again, with the polls showing the race tied, in reality, the Democrats are badly behind at this point. Harris did not do terribly, but she really had to shine. And I don't see that she's shown.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine if you ask the people that watched the debate last night how much of it they actually remember when it comes to substance and policy. Even, the theatrics of it, I don't know if, people will really remember anything with her hand under her chin and all of that at the beginning. But, we'll wait and see if we're going to get a second debate in October or not. And of course, the numbers are coming out. Ultimately, we'll see if Americans will vote on issues or on an extension of the Biden administration. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.